Okay, let's go. First, Gmar Cemetery to everybody. I spent a good year. I don't think we're going to have a shiur for the next two until we start Parshas again, because next week's going to be Harav Yontif. It's not really Harav Yontif, but it's still like, you know, you got to do a lot of things for Yontif. I don't know if we're going to have time for a shiur. And afterwards, Chalamed, and then Parshas.
Hazino Rebbe's not giving.
Huh?
Hazino Rebbe's not going to give. Hazino. Parshas
Hazino.
Hazino.
I'm going to try and give something in here today, a little bit on it, something like that. Okay. There's a lot of hashkafas that are negay in here, these sedras. So we're going to cover them, so at least we'll have something. It says, Rashi brings down on the pasuk that Moshe Rabbeinu says, Lo yuchal ha'od lotzis v'lovos. He says he's able to. So what do you mean he's not able to? Not able to. And I went to school, I remember that my teacher taught me the difference between may and can. You know, you may not, but you can. You know. And in Moshe Rabbeinu teaches us that in reality there is no difference. If you may not, you cannot. It's not that I can, but I may not. I cannot if I may not. And that's a very important lesson that we have. We always think, you know, good, it's bechira, that's true, it's bechira. But the attitude that we have to train ourselves in, if we leave it as always the choice that we can do whatever we want, then sometimes chas v'chol we can be nikshel. This way, if I feel that once God says he can't, that's it. It's over. It's finished. Same thing applies in Eishes Ish. She was for the Mausi Gashosai. Once she gets married to somebody else. Why is that also? Because by that thing, the even Ezra says this person's supposed to look at somebody else's wife if it's the king's wife. The king's wife you have no Yetzer Hara for, because if the king ever knew that you had a Yetzer Hara for his wife, your head would be chopped off. So once, if you see the Oynish right in front of you, if you see a Malach standing over you, over with a baseball bat and says, you see you do that and I'll slug you one with the bat, you're not going to do it. You have no Yetzer Hara to do it. Huh? You're not that I have a Yetzer Hara, but I can't do it, I'm afraid. You have no Yetzer Hara, because pain is not something that you have a Yetzer Hara for. So therefore, that's all you're looking at it. So you're supposed to look at it, the king's wife. Once I have a din that I can remarry, then there's no reason for me to make it to divorce my wife, let her marry someone else, and then I'll marry her back, and then whatever. It's no, you never forget about the other guy's wife. And that's the Torah. After me, once it's somebody else's wife, it's gone, it's finished. In our world, we must keep this very much in mind. We are a very closed world. We don't have that much. Very much everybody knows everybody, and it's very possible that you'll have in the same neighborhood, in the same kailo, in the same whatever, the same shkuna where we would live, that the guy who went out with 10 of the girls and they married 9 other guys. And it's supposedly not the other guy's wives. There's nothing to do. It's not something I could have married her. I could have whatever. Because these machshavas are not supposed to be by anybody. That's the important part that we have to know. So I can't. If Jesus, I may not means I can't. And if I can't, there's nothing that's to think about. Anyway, the shaila here, which is like Ashar Ligmor Babasa. I don't know if he spoke about it the last time or not. We just read the Kriya, for the Tanis. It says here what he saw. He says, put the Torah. You should make the Torah and you put it by the side of the oven. There's a pasuk on that. I'm going too fast. That's a Torah, and I'm looking for something, and I always skip it. Okay, but anyway, it says, huh?
Right? Also Harav.
Vasav, okay.
Harav.
Chavav. How about I jumped to there? Okay, I'm sorry. Right, okay, I jumped. We're going to have to go back. But anyway, the part of that thing is, it says over there that he gave it over, Chavav?
That's what it says. It was on the side of the orange.
Yes, Chavav.
The end part of
Oh, sometimes mitzad Aaron Bris Hashem. So that's it says that there was a daf that came out machlekes. It was in the, with the luchis and the oven, or there was a little shelf that comes out. And first of all, that shelf point is a very interesting thing. We just built a base medrash up in the country, and we have. The Oven Kaddish is a room. In other words, it's a room that's built out of the building. And you walk into it, and the Sifrei Torah lay on a ledge, on a shelf, which is held in by brackets into the wall. And they also have chains that hold it up. The chains just for decoration. They is the brackets. And the Shaila, is that called your Torah, Sefer Torah, or not? And we had that objection, and that l'chayra, you hang in the set. Looks like you're hanging in the Sefer Torah because you're not even allowed to hang an Oven Kaddish, even if you knock it into the wall. But if it looks like it's hanging, you're not allowed to have it, right? So it's a good point. But I said, but when you see that it supports held into the wall. That's not a so. First of all, the fact that I don't know how many people would ever have thought of it when they put in a closet, say for Torah they have in the house. They put in the closet, put it on a shelf. The shelf is also only supported on the side. It's not doesn't go with feet to the floor. Okay, but the biggest raya is from here. That if there's there was a daf that went out, there was a little thing that held, but it was held together by the oven, that it can't fall, that it's not hanging, it's not a bezoyan. This is how it's held. Like you get on a porch, you're not going to say it's a hanging porch when you walk into a porch that the beams overextend the house, right? They Baruch Hashem that you feel it's pretty secure over there. So I'm saying, so this is also the same thing. That's not called hanging. Okay, but anyway, before it said when he wrote the luchas, the shnias, when he got the second shni luchas, so he put him in a box, in an oven of wood. Rashi says over there that this is the oven that went to war with them, and that's where they put the shivrei luchas in the end. And the reason you need that box was simply because the oven wasn't mitzvah to be built until after he broke the luchas. So for where was he going to put the first luchas? Right? Obviously they had some, but he didn't build a box for the first luchas. I don't know exactly what was planned for it. But for the second luchas, he said build a box and put it there. And then you'll build the Beis Hamikdash, the Mishkan, and then you'll have an oven, and you'll put it in there. But till then, you have the wooden box. And they have laid the shivrei luchos, and that went out to war with them. So it makes a lot of sense. That is because you didn't have to go every time they went to war to go in the oven into Kodesh Kedoshim and get out the shivrei luchos from there. That's probably difficult to put in there. And you had it in a different oven. I don't know where the oven was. Was it also in the Kodesh Kedoshim and you took it out? However they got it out, whenever they got it out, like so, they were able to do it, like they take out the potatoes and stuff like that. So at that time they took these things out. I can't answer you how they would have done it or how they do it, but l'chayr it makes sense. Then what the Hikkel Sach is telling you, luchis, we should be luchis, menachem ba'oren. They had to give it the covet of laying it in an oven. It's not just that you can't leave it hefker. You have to put it in an oven. You can't just think this. You got to give it the same covet as you give a regular sefer Torah, and so on. So there would be mashmat. The sefer Torah didn't necessarily have to be in the one within the Kodesh Kedoshim. Could be in it, even though it could be because Aaron Bris Hashem, which was probably more the Kodesh Kedoshim one, than this box that he had like for temporary, I don't know what you would call it for, but the wooden box.
Just that we say the Shivri Luchas are the same as the Luchas, that they both go in the Aron. Are they mamish the same that you could put it on top of the regular?
Like this, it would no. You have that extra half a tefach all around where they can slip in. It's broken, so it lays on the bottom. I don't know. So if I want to go to war with them, I'd have to go pick them out and this and that. I mean, it doesn't sound. First of all, why do your hands doing on the oven? I mean, they're touching the luchas. I mean, I think that would be a terrible thing to be able to touch the luchas. I mean, something like that. I don't know. I mean, but whatever it is, but the Gemara Babasa seems to say it was all living together, like this of Mashmoisim over here. Okay. In the Ian of Hakil. This is a Vochter Rosh Hashivas. It was said obviously in a time when it was very necessary, but I don't think that there's ever a time that it's not necessary. And in our time, it appears to us in different ways than it does that way. The din of Hakil is that you're supposed to have noshim v'taf, have to come. Okay, so there's a Gemara that Talmidim came to Rabbi Yeshua when he was older, and he came to ask him, you know, I guess him back to Chelim, or just to visit him, whatever it is. And he asked them what Chiddush was in the Beis Medrash today. So they told him, we're your Talmidim, we came to hear, we didn't come to tell. Which is a very important lesson that we have to have. The world comes that kids want to say their Torah to the Rebbe. I don't know if there's any, that's what you're supposed to do. And it's very nice, you want the approval of the Rebbe. But it's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to hear what the Rebbe has to say. You're supposed to give him as much time as you can to say it. And the reason for it is because he has more and more to put out. The Gra, they said, used to say so much at one time that they had to have different people of his Talmidim that wrote different subjects because they couldn't go. The same thing applies by Abaya. You know, normally a Talmud has to, a Rebbe, there's really no excuse to say I teach to the top of the class, the bottom of the class, the middle of the class. I got to teach to the whole class. It's not just thing I teach the part of the class. This is a Gemara in Babasra that says over there that Chumash Shiur, which he happens to be like the, I guess the Lamatinoikis that had at that time. He was a Talmud of Ravs, and he would ask Rav Shailas. He asked Rav Shaila, what happened if a kid fell asleep? And he keeps sleeping in the class. He does, he's not paying attention. What should I do with him? He says, leave him asleep. He'll wake up one day and then he'll fit in. Ask that to any menayel you want and see if they give you that answer. Okay? And what do you do with the Gemara? Kasha. Okay. And at least give me a different shot in the Gemara. What they could say good. What do they know about the teaching? Unfortunately, that's an attitude a lot of times. What do they know? Okay. Anyway.
In a vriendje, years ago, I remember a vriendje a bug fell asleep, and the vriend said, don't wake him up. He said, cuts, don't wake up for eating, and nothing else.
So, obviously, the kid these are his friends. He has the son Kishman is there. He fell asleep. Okay, he'll start then. He has the ability to understand. I don't understand as good as the other guy yet, and it's a job of the Rebbe to make sure. He'll say, how can you teach like that? Well, let me tell you, I went to school in English. I can't tell you it in Hebrew. We had only one class. But in English, there was 5 classes that were in one room, one teacher. I started in MTJ to 3B. In those times, used to have the year was divided into 2 chalokim, A and B. I was in the 3B at the time, and they had the 3B, 4A, 4B, 5A, 5B. That's 5 classes, all learning different things. And you had first Mrs. Goldstein, and then when her husband finished the public school, he would come, and he would take over Mr. Goldstein. That was the thing, and they were able to teach 5 classes at one time. Now, how could you teach 5 classes at one time? They're different things. That's what you have to do sometimes. The Little Red Schoolhouse, how do you do that? You have to tell them how do you teach from kindergarten to college, all in one's class. You have one student here, one student here, one student there, and you got to do it at the same time. How do you do it at the same time? You learn. There's no such thing as, why concentrate on the best. The thing that you can give the best work to do. They have work to do. Like in Harav on the work, and you can do, but they're not best. And whatever it is there. If you had to review with them or to explain to them or whatever it is. But I'm saying Rebbe can figure it out. Okay. So yes, and what Chiddush was there in the Beis Medrash today, he said we came to learn to Yonah, and you see also, but by Abaye, you have a Maaseh that you see he didn't spend this time to explain it to Rebbeim, to the Talmidim, because Rav Acha Bar Yankiv sent Rav Yankiv, his son, to learn by Abaye, and he saw he didn't understand the shiurim, so he said, okay, you go, you stay here, and I'm going. So therefore, you see that Abaye didn't take into consideration guys who don't understand, because Abaye is the Gadol Hadar. The Gadol Hadar just has to keep throwing teva at you, because this is it. He's got to get out as much as he has in life that he has to give over. He has to get out of out to the Talmidim. And therefore, if he's going to spend time explaining to each Talmud, but even though he's working out the thing, teaching, he's not going to be able to get out the Torah. They have to hear. They're not here to learn how to learn. They're here to hear what he has to say. And that's where he has this big difference between a Rebbe and the Abaye. By Melech, you also can't interrupt. The Gemara in Kiddushin, in Brochus says, they came to David HaMelech and told him, Parnose, and he gave him an eitzah, right? Do business. They saw they're not burden svalim bechulyo. It's not going to be sufficient. If everybody had the American dream, even the cleaning lady, that she also wants a cleaning lady, it's not going to be possible, right? So therefore, it has to be different with different levels. So how could everybody have what we all need? So obviously the question is, how do we do it? So they never offer another opinion. David HaMelech offers again and again. He offers till he comes to Gedud. And that is the point, that there's an Indian of being able to, that it's the Melech, unless he invites you to offer an opinion, you're not allowed to offer an opinion. You can't just say, I'd like to offer an opinion. You can't offer any opinion. The Melech doesn't have to listen to your opinions. And the same thing, really, you're not coming to the Rebbe to do it. The only reason I was learning, the Rebbe, the Chiyuv of a Rebbe in a class, each Talmud wants to show him what he accomplished, and he's going on the right way, is he's being mechadish properly, he's not being mechadish properly. Okay, that's the Rebbe's job, so therefore he's mechuyev to listen. But an outside Rebbe is not mechuyev to listen. Except that Talstel Cheles, people used to go to them. Anyway, so they came to Rabbi Yeshua and they told him, what do you call it? He says, Afal Pikein and they Swedish B'lichidush. There must have been something you heard. So they said, yes, whose week was it? No, that was the time when Gamliel was deposed, and then he was reinstated. But they put him, meanwhile, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, so they left it at 3 weeks for Rabbi Gamliel and 1 week for Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah every month, in other words. So that was the week of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. So he says, what did he learn? So he says we're learning Hakil, And he said, it says over there that the Hanoshim Atav. So he says, okay, Hanoshim is to learn. The Noshim is to hear. Taf Lama boy. Why do children have to come for? What are they coming for? So Litein Schalem Eviyam. That's what he darshaned. And hearing that, Rabbi Yeshua started to say, this is such Meradik. You didn't want to tell me this Meradik Yesoy, but he said this is so fantastic. And any dur that Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah is in can't be a dur. Yosem went on and on. Well, Shiva asked, he says, what was the big deal? What did he say over here? He said, if you have a mitzvah, you're going to get schar. So big deal. So that's what I told you. So why are we so impressed? He said, no. He says, more mitzvahs in the Torah. You do mitzvah because God commanded you. Comes to Talmud Torah, the funny Yetzer Hara comes into the world. The Talmud Torah is for learning. Learning, you have to know what you learn. And you can't learn it. If you can't know what you're learning, then don't bother learning. So a lot of parents, years ago, this was in his time, would say, my kid's not going to be a rabbi anyway, so what's the point of bringing him? He's too weak to learn. He's not smart enough to have a double program. They made all these types of excuses that they had for their kids, and stuff like that. And they didn't bring him to Yeshiva Taki. He says, that's what he said, that your job is to bring them. That's what your job is. The mitzvah is bring them. That's the mitzvah. That's what you're getting schar for. It's not they're not what they know how to learn. They don't know how to learn. It's irrelevant. And the truth is, even by ourselves, we have that. You have a guy that has a verstopfte cup, or the sieve, goes in one ear and out the other ear. So it's a matona, a bad matona, meaning God didn't give you the right equipment. But the Ben Yaina says over there, but he should still learn, because even though he has to keep repeating it as if he never learned it, he'll get schar for the Havanya. He'll always get schar for that Havanya. So there's no reason for him not to keep learning and stuff like that. And that's basically the part that you have to understand. Obviously, sit down and learn. It's not that our job is not to know the thing. It would be nice if you know the important things. If you do know, we'll make you a rabbi. But that's not the chiyuv of Talmud Torah. Once I'm learning, I can't learn not to know. I have to learn as if to know. But that's not the objective, not that I must know. If I can't know, I still have to learn. And the Talmidim, that the guys, the Balabatim and the Rav used to give a shiur, Milchem Ma'ariv or Shabbos, they come to the shiur and they'd fall asleep in the middle of the shiur. Right? Because they were tired and they didn't really understand what was going on, so they fell asleep. So, but they still got schar licha, they got, because I came to hear. I'm not able to understand, so I don't understand. That's not the most important part. The important part is the coming to hear Dvar Hashem. And here's the thing. So that's the big lesson of Hakel. The pshat is that, and that's what Rabbi Yeshua heard. And that was the lesson of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Next piece, it says an interesting thing. It says there'll come a time when Klal Yisrael will do Avodah Zarah, and the Rebbeinu Sholom is going to turn away from them, and they're going to say, that means they want to do tshuva, that why I might get angry at them, and they'll have a lot of troubles, and they'll say, you know what, we're having all these troubles because God is not among us. So we have to get God among us. And what will I do? Hasta pone bayimahu. I'll hide my face from them that day, and I'm not going back. So what's going to be with them? They're going to die? They're going to be there's no hope for them. What's the end of the story? It doesn't go in. What I think it means, first of all, Esther, why did you call Esther? Hasta Astapon. From the word I will hide my face, she's called Esther. But God didn't hide his face. He came out. He only made it look like he hid his face in the beginning, but he didn't hide his face. Right? He just let it get up to a point before he came out and saved them. What do you think there? That is, I think, the problem is when you say God is not among us. I'm always here. God doesn't go anywhere else. God is all over. The whole world is Mali Kvaydai. There's no place he isn't. You just don't recognize that I'm here. The Chesron is in you. If you think the Chesron is because it's over there, and over here he's not here, then I'm not coming, because you still don't have the idea of who God is. You have to reach the point of understanding that I'm God, and I can come wherever I have to be. That's where I will come. Not that I am here wherever I have to be. I am here all the time, and I will perform, if I have to perform for you, to save you, into whatever it is there. But I'm here. I didn't go away. I didn't leave you. I didn't forget about you. And that's the part that we have to understand. That the Rebbeinu Shalom is always here and always cares about us. And this is the, and now to keep this point, the Torah tells us you have to write Hazinu, which is the setting apart of Shemayim V'Oretz as the Eidim against the Klal Yisrael, because the Eidim are the ones who are supposed to do Yad Eidim Tiyeh B'Rishona. They're supposed to do the punishment first, and if they see that Jews are not keeping the Torah, they will bring the hunger. They'll bring the soil won't come and they won't produce and whatever it is. That's what that's the point of the shiur. Okay, so now we're going to go into Hazinu a little bit. What does it say that's going to be the second pasuk? Yav kamot alikri. It should be like my words. It should be like rain. Tizal katalim rosi. My saying should be like the dew. Kisirim alideshech v'im aliyesef. So Rashi brings down that why does he have to give you the expression of moto and tal? Thank you. Moto and tal, because by moto, not everybody's happy with moto, rain. I'm not talking about when it's a wipeout like we just had. I'm talking about even a rain that we all need. You need the rain, but the travelers are going to get wet. They're not happy about getting soaked, right? They just put on their brand new suit and they got caught in the downpour. Now they have to press it and clean it, whatever they have to do with it, or it's got ruined altogether, right? They're not always happy. On the other hand, too, everybody's happy with. I don't want to say I beg to differ with the Rashi, but I'm in the country, and I put on a press suit for Shabbos, and I polished my shoes, and I walk into the grass, which has dew on it. I'm only going to the morning minyan, and all of a sudden my shine disappears, my cuffs lose their crease. I'm not very happy about that. So you tell me I call smecha. Are people unhappy with dew too? Just the relativity of how much people are going to be unhappy. So I think this is what it means. I was once I can't say this is a riot to all Gittin, but once happened to be a convention, and happened there was a conservative Jew there, a woman, young woman. She was not a divorcee yet, and she was waiting for the get, and the husband wasn't giving it, and she was very upset, and very cool. And she was having tinnitus, like why can't I give the get and stuff like that. I said to her, the Torah says it should be like rain, it should be like dew. That means there's some people that it appears as rain. And that's people who have their own motives. They have to go. They're going for themselves. There's nothing to do. They're going for God. They're going for themselves. And all of a sudden it rains, and they get soaked. They're not happy about it, right? He filled up his bowl with yayin. Again, he did it for himself. And it became diluted. The people get married for different reasons. The ikar reason a person has to get married for is for the mitzvah of kiyum amin, pil yivarivim. That's the purpose. It helps. It makes bonuses. The fact that they're good looking, they're smart, we can talk to them, they're very companionable. They come from fine families, they're rich. These are all pluses. But the tachlis of why I'm getting married is the first one. If the ikir zach is the other ones, then even though, and this is brought down, that even though it says that the Gemara says, Neisishim Nus, Neisishim Momen, some covet is written by when you do it for a apostle, the same thing applies even if you do it for a kosher one. My motive is not the Shem Shemayim. My motive is because I want to have money. She's a rich lady, or he's a rich man, and I want to get married to. Not because I want to be taken care of. Simple as that. I want the covet of being the Chassan of Benesia. She's beautiful. That's the Ikar Zach is beautiful. So basically talking about your taiva. Has nothing at all to do about what the tachlis of marriage is all about. And that's the time. If you do it because of the tachlis, then there are going to be times that they're going to need to get, times for whatever it is, the reason they can't get along, or whatever it is. But then you should know it'll be like dew. Now, the process won't be a hard one. The process, nobody's interested in holding in. Because basically we wanted L'Shem Shemayim, it didn't work out, so we can part. But if I had other reasons why I got married, and now all of a sudden I'm angry, I'm insulted, whatever it is that comes into the parts over there, then there's a sinner. And when there's a hatred that comes with it, a lot of things, then it's like water, like rain. And that's what the Torah is telling us. There's two types of people, how they do mitzvahs. Some do it for their own benefit, whatever it is. They do mitzvahs. They're not doing averos, they're doing mitzvahs. The kavanah is not the kavanah to do God's will, the kavanah is to do their will through the thing. Those people, if there are difficulties, they will be like rain. On the other hand, the other ones will do L'Shem Shemayim. If there are difficulties, they'll be like dew. Now now he's a funny word. He says, "I want my words to be like that." And it says afterwards, "Kisirim as elidesha chaviv malayesed." Rashi touches up. It's an argument what the sirim means, but Rashi touches up the strong winds, tornadoes. What grows in the tornado states? Grain. In other words, you need the strong winds to harden the whatever it is, the grains, in order to be out of a good crop. I want my words to do it, because the Torah strengthens you also. If I go through Nisyonis, you'll become someone who is strong, the end. Let's say, for instance, you want to know if you're Baal B'tochen, right? And all of a sudden you lose all your money. What's your reaction? So if you talk your calm and someone else, whatever it is, I didn't say you feel good about it, but I said that at least you're calm. You know, calm, but God took, God gave, God took, whatever lesson we use. But I'm calm, I'm able to accept it. So then I prove to myself what I am. Right? You know, and if I wasn't able to, but I adjusted to it, so then the situation made me become a Baal B'tochen. Okay, so there's importance and lessons also. But it's a very difficult life if you have to always have every lesson in life to have to go through a matzav. That's going to be a very painful life. So Moshe Rabbeinu, I think, is asking for it. Halavai, my words should be like Havivim, Kesirim Aledesha, they should strengthen you. And I'll explain how it's possible. Havivim Aleyesav, and Havivim is, they shoot like arrows in a way, that they hit each blade of grass, whatever it needs, gets the amount of water that it needs. And stuff like that. So they say that. So every person who has to learn a certain lesson from a certain posik or from a din or for whatever it is there, it'll hit him. He'll learn that lesson. It'll have that effect on him. So we want the Torah to do two things. It wants us to strengthen us. It also wants it to be applicable to us. And that's something that we always have to do. So this L'Bein Moshe Rabbeinu was saying that this is what the Torah should be, that we don't have to go through these things. And you say, how is it possible? Very simple. When you argue through a sugya, you try to figure out exactly, put yourself in the place of the situation, and say, you know, when it says you feel this way, I didn't feel that way. So then no. So you try to put yourself into the true situation, and then you'll see that you feel that way. So therefore, that's what you need, really. That's the lessons themselves. Your training, the best training is learning Torah. Now, the Vayelech says, a very important lesson. It says, Ani emes v'achaya. Right? I am the one that makes you alive, and I'm the one that kills you. What's the purpose of that? You notice there's a lashon in the Gemara several times that shtei reshuyos. Why pick on shtei reshuyos? Why not like the Greeks? There was 100 reshuyos, 1,000 reshuyos. No, just they say there are many reshuyos. No, the Ike Yetzirah there is in the world is that we don't understand the shtei reshuyos. God is good, and the God is the source of what you think is bad, or it's bad for you. And therefore, you can't believe that both sources are the same. The Goyim Lahav, they divided between Yoshke and the Satan. Yoshke is good, the Satan is bad. And they're fighting with each other all the time. Right? But Yoshke is good. He's never bad. By us saying, Bani Emes V'Achaya, we're saying that what you feel is bad is coming also from HaKadosh Baruch. Now, obviously, we know it's not bad. It's coming for a good purpose. It's coming for a purpose to teach me things. It's coming for a purpose for Einshim. coming for purpose, whatever it is, to be mechaper for me. But there's a reason why it's coming, and it's a just reason. But I still don't like it. Right? So in a way, we see from here that the type of tefillah that we really should have is not a tefillah of Reuven Hashem save me, Reuven Hashem help me, make me well, or make me well, maybe you can, because, but really you should supposed to say, stop hitting me, stop beating me up, stop making me sick, because that's what Reuven Hashem is doing. Except obviously in the positive sense, but now that you're sick, I have to make you well. So I'm asking you to make me well. Whether I deserve to be well, I don't deserve to be well, I'm still asking you and begging you and pleading with you to make me well. So it's good for that reason. But don't look at him like it's a different keach, the keach of good. I'm looking to the Mainishlam because that's the good of the world, and that's the only way. And to him, I got to do it. But the bad comes from somewhere else. There's no such thing. That's Shnei L'Shuyas, and that's Avodah Zarah. There is one God only, and He does both things. Both keiches come from Him, and we have to understand it and appreciate it. Now the whole shiur in several spaces stops with the idea. Don't get complacent. You know, there is no such thing as this continues forever. As long as you're good, your purpose is to serve me, your purpose is to listen, to learn what I want, then you'll have bracha all the time. You want to do the Torah because it's God's Torah, not because you feel like you want to be a big shot and tell the guy what to do. You want to do the God's Torah and to show what someone who lives according to what the Rebbeinu Shalom wants, how he lives his life and how life affects him, and so you would want to copy him. That's a good fine yid. Right? In other words, that's not what the Rebbeinu Shalom wants from you. He doesn't want that you should learn Torah because I got to go to yeshiva, so I'm learning Torah there. Nowhere in the world did we discuss the inyan that this is God's Torah that we're learning. It's God's Ratzon that we're discussing here. We're talking about theory. Otherwise, it's like you go to college and you get a pro and con debate, and whatever side I'm on, that they pick me, I can find an argument for. That's not the case. We're not a debating club. We are a club that's looking for emes. And that's the whole tachlis of Torah, looking for the emes of what God's Ratzon is. And that's what we're trying to figure out. And we have a right to scream and yell and everything, but not personal. That can't be ever. It's not personal. Okay. Moshe Rabbeinu, well, that we will leave for that because we covered that already. Zeis HaBrocha. Yep. Torah tziva lanu Moshe Morosh Kilas Yaakov. This is our Torah. This is what Rashi translates it. Torah asher tziva lanu Moshe. This Torah that Moshe taught us. Morosh Kilas Yaakov. That is an inheritance to Kilas Yaakov. Achaznuha. Hold on to it. And don't leave it. In other words, you got it. It's in your hands already. It's a merosha. It's not a yerusha. It's not coming to me. In merosha, you have it already. You inherited it. It's an inheritance from the Yaakov Avinu. It's in you. You have it. Don't give it up. If you realize that the Torah is yours, it's not something I have to learn. It's something that's mine. It's all the chokhmah of it is mine. I'm entitled to it, and therefore, it comes a different balabos. There's no one that can't understand the Torah. We're not talking about someone that's unfortunately weak head, or we said before, where the case go in one ear and out the other ear, and memory is not a very good one. Something like that. Those are gifts from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But to understand the Torah, we can all understand it. It may take us a long time to understand it. It may take us, like the Talmud of Rav it take 400 times to understand it. But if anyone can understand it, we can understand it. It's not shaykh that he can understand it because he's smart, and I'm dumb and I can't understand the Torah. The trouble with this is we hear something 2-3 times and we don't understand it. Immediately is I can't understand. I'll never get this, and forget about it. That's the trouble. We have no right to give it because the Torah guarantees us that you will understand it. Say gaiti v'lo motzasi is al tamin. That's what the Gemara says. So therefore, it's impossible. So you just didn't try hard enough yet. That's the point, except that most people think trying hard is you stretch your feet out, you have your cup of coffee, you have a thing laying a thing there. Oh, now I'm ready to listen, God. That's not called listening. You sit down like this, you want to see that. That's what it's called. You want to listen. The other way, I'm not listening. I'm just I'll hear maybe.
What does it really mean that we could understand? It really means that we could
The
get
Shvel's
the
the
migrations of
Taisus.
the Rishonim?
Yeah, you could reach it. I mean, obviously, you learned the Rishonim and you understand them, don't you? Maybe it took you a while to understand them. It didn't come saying. I had to hear maybe to explain it a little better. But that's what I'm learning. I'm learning Shir and I understand it. So obviously, I can understand. That way.
You need a lot of time to learn the places 400 times.
You're right,
Hashem should give a lot of
but
time.
that's up to God. Did I tell you what Rachi Ashiloni was? Why does Rashi tell us that? I mean, not Rashi, the Rambam in his Abdoma tell us that Rachi Ashiloni was Miyetz Mitzrayim Hoya, and he was Mikabel from David HaMelech. That means he was 500 years old when he got the Torah, when he was a Mikabel. How old was David? 70, right? And before him, Shmuel was around, 52. He's learning from all these young kids, and he's still in class, right? But Baruch Hashem, God gave him a lot of years, so he became Achi Asheleni finally. But till then, it was a while. They didn't come right away. But he plugged at it and plugged at it and plugged at it. And the Talmud of Rav Cheder too could have been that way. That after a certain amount of time, he became a certain person. Other people have early. They say over. I don't know the person. The Maram,
Shik. Ram Shik.
not the Shik, the other one. Ram Shik, yeah. Ram Shif is one Talmud. Ram Shik was another Talmud of Chasam Sefer. Ram Shik, they say he had a very shvere cup. In other words, he's not a bright person. If you ever see his responses, they call it the Shayos and Chuvas, they're set like about this big. And he's obviously, in the end, he had a lot of stuff to say. He worked on it. He prayed. I think somewhere along the line, the Rebbeinu Shalom maybe blesses him and gives him, you tried hard enough, I'll make it easy for you now. So I'll give you a better head. But Lemaisa, he's got to start himself. It's not going to happen by what he called, by an accident. Some people have a good brain, and they still may not be good. You see, I think there's a place, someplace that says that Doig and Achitophel never pass into true halach in their lives. What does that mean? Achitophel is Yatzas Hashem, Achitophel Yatzas Hashem Beisai. In other words, he's just like the Reuven Betumim. What do you mean in Baskin? A dynamis, right? Achitophel is the shekel. He's the guy that knew the schar for every mitzvah. Which mitzvahs asay is bigger than other mitzvahs asay. Nobody else knew it except the Achitefel. I mean, Doyig. And yet we say it in Paskin and Emes. It doesn't make any sense. I said, you know what's called an educated guess? You ever hear there's every type of advertisement never says 100%, 97%, right? Whether it's Geico, whether it's Ivory Soap, or some other things, it's always 97%. You don't have 100%, because it's not perfect. What I want to say with that?
An educated guess.
Hmm?
An educated guess.
Yeah, so basically is, if I know 97% of a subject well, and, I'm trying to see if what I said is true, so I'm going to bombard it with as many questions as I can to see if it's emes, right? And I'm going to do it, let's say, with 100 questions. And it passes the whole 100 questions, but I got another 2 or 3 to go. Don't have to bother. It's right. That's an educated guess. I don't know if it's right. The odds are it's right. That's true. It's 97% right. Not the odds are it's right. That's called an educated guess. Somebody will say something is an uneducated guess because he doesn't have any idea at all. But to know, you have to have 100%. And that was David HaMelech, the difference. David HaMelech was Hashem Imai, Halochi K'moise B'chol Mokim, because he went, even though they were smarter than him, but he went to the ultimate to find out what the emes is. Well, it says over here, Reuven al Thomas Yimsov Mispah, then Bezoisli Yehud. And after that comes the Levi Omas. Rashi says, why is Yehuda jump out of the ordinary, out of the Seder? Really, it should have been Shimon, but Shimon, the Maisi, didn't give any bracha to. And second, should have given was to Levi. Why did he go to Yehuda? So he brings down, because me, Goram, Reuven, to be Moide, was Yehuda. What happened when it was the Maisa of moving the beds? So that's what Reuven did, and he held it in for a long time. He didn't didn't tell anybody. Wasn't made about it, and what do you call it? Because he felt it wasn't the proper time yet to do tshuva on it. Because if he did tshuva, he did tshuva in his heart, but he was fasting all the years. But to do tshuva in the sense of doing vidui in public, what happens is people will find it justified. He stood up for his father, his mother's covered. He said, Yaakov Avinu was, what do you call him now? How come Reuven is Moida now? Because he got to be a fat cat. He happened to need Yaakov Avinu now. So he's trying to please him. He's playing to that. But in reality, he did the right thing when he put the bed in and stuff like that. So he's waiting for a time to be able to show what a bad Avera he did. So until Yehuda did something that the world considers bad. Now, the din is, the Gemara says, that what is Keich is Akvisha left him, whatever it is, all these things are true. About, most people look at and say, who are you kidding? He had a taiva, and he's a bistaiva. He was a low life, whatever it is there. And when Yehuda was moide, that many, right? And that was the thing that he was afraid that normal people would be afraid of to be moide on, Like, you think you're always prepared posing as a big tzaddik, and now you know what you really are, piece of schmutz, and therefore in there, and he wasn't embarrassed to do it, and he did it. And on that point, now Reuven said, now I have the chance to do it. Now people understand what something embarrassing is, what something bad is. So therefore, now I can say, what you think, he did a bad thing. You know what I did? And then told one of my sons. The truth is, it's a very noble thing and it's a good idea and everything else. What has it got to do with the brachas for Klal Yisrael? So this is what I think. In Emerson, it's chayri, as they say, it's a private thing. Reuven did something that had nothing to do with Klal Yisrael. It's true. It's a point of argument with his Rebbe, but the idea is, who's like Reuven? Who jumps the gun that much? The Rebbe says something, think about it, maybe whatever it is, or at least that's what we think we're going to do, and stuff like that. And therefore, it's a private avera. It has nothing to do with a lesson for Klal Yisrael. It says no, it's a lesson for Klal Yisrael. The kasha becomes, why did Jacob do this? If he understood, and Jacob was not his dumb man, he knew that he has 6 kids that belong to Leah, that someone's going to take it the wrong way, right? And, why should I antagonize him? Let me put it in Leah's tent. What's the big deal, right? And Taki remains to say, I like Bilah more than Leah. Taki, that's a big insult. So it's a big insult, Taki. So that's not what he was doing. Well, Yaakov Avinu, in reality, was trying to not to insult Leah at all. If he would put it in Leah's tent, after Rachel dies, then people will say Leah was number 2. Leah was never number 2. Leah was number 1. I had 2 number 1 wives. Well, if you wanted their purposes, one was more personal purpose maybe, but Leah for Klal Yisrael, Malchus, Kohune, Reuv Yisrael. I mean, there's no kasha that for Klal Yisrael she's the Ikke mother, right? Leah. So they're both number 1s to me. I can't put it in by Leah. I'll put it by a shifra. By a shifra, nobody will accuse me of being like someone's number 2. Leah's number 2. Now, how come Reuven made that mistake then? Right? Because Reuven happened to be privy to a conversation between Rachel and Leah. When he brought back the Dudoyim, Rachel asked for some of the Dudoyim, and Leah said, you stole my husband, now you want to take my Dudoyim of my son. So, in other words, he heard from her what Leah's opinion was, that she was number 2. And she didn't hear the denial of that fact from Yaakov Avinu. So definitely Leah had that feeling, to a certain extent, that she was number 2. Snua Neichi, whatever it is. Right? So because of that, he made that error. But he realized it right away. But the lesson for Klal Yisrael is that the Gadol made a decision. We all have to follow. We have a leader. And we're following the leader. He made a decision. We don't think he's right. Right? Why? Obviously, because we have a different opinion. Right? You should know that whatever you feel about, he has his reasoning, and he's right. And this is what it shot when it says by Zokim Amri, even if he says from left is right and right is left, right? It means I have to listen to him when he's wrong. No, you're not listening to when he's wrong. He's right. You think he's going from right to left and left to right. That's only your opinion. His opinion is that he's the right way. And we come to let's learn from him. And therefore, when he says that's right, then we have to understand why that's right. But that's right. It's not the point that it's wrong. That's the point that we must lesson. And that's the lesson for Klal Yisrael that he put in over here, to know this lesson that what our leaders' decisions are and how we have to work on their words to understand what they say, not just to what he called to criticize them. Nothing different. I'd like to wish everybody a good year, a healthy year, he have long arichas yom and parnasa teva and covered, and Yetz Hashem by Parshas Bereshit will be back.